wrap it up.
You might have to edit this whole part.
No, this is the part that we don't edit because it's fantastic. No.
Okay.
All right.
Nobody prepared me for
Well,
this.
No,
are
that
you
we don't.
familiar with our lightning rounds? Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Aviation RC New Podcast. My name is Joe.
And I'm Matt.
And today we are joined by none other than Dan Sponholz, wonderful fella who has designed multiple different planes in the FT lineup, has his watermark all over their plans that you can get out there.
He's kind of like the unofficial flight test plane coordinator, I'd say. He makes sure that they look good, man, and they do.
Dan, you've got your watermark on how many plans now?
I couldn't even tell you. It's a lot.
You need to get your resume up to date, sir.
Everything since the Bushwhacker in 2015 to date.
Wow,
man.
With the exception of the John Overstreet Master Series stuff that we don't have plans for. So
yeah. Right. I mean, most of that's essentially the intellectual property of him as partnered with Flight Test, right?
Correct. Yes.
All right. So all that stuff, that's all on him. Although it's awesome that we, I guess, kind of share access to it in the sense that it's as easy as to get access to as all the other Flight Test stuff. Can you actually access Master Series plans or no?
There are a few that got released, like some of the early ones before, like some of the all the stuff that went down with the plans, a couple years ago. So, like I think the Mustang, the Spitfire, the
Corsair,
P-38, the Corsair, and the C-47. I believe those are the only ones that. Master Series plans that are available.
I'll tell you what, I mean, that's a good assortment to have available just in general.
It's a great start just to, like, if you want to dabble or get into the Master Series stuff, it's a good intro to it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so obviously we're talking to Dan today, and we're going to talk about what his boy, now my brain is your contributions to the community. That's what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh.
There you go, bud.
I'll get it eventually. We're also going to talk about the, as promised from the last episode, we're going to talk about the McDonnell XF-85 Goblin, the Parasite fighter. And of course, as always, we're going to talk about our adventures that we've been doing in the last couple weeks and all the stuff related to the hobby. And so why don't we start with that? Usually, Dan, we talk about what we've done the last couple weeks. What have you been up to regarding the hobby?
Unfortunately, not much hobby related. I guess the only thing hobby related that I've been kind of working on within the last couple of weeks is just finalizing the Flight Test 3DXL plans to go back over to the FT guys for the FTCA website.
Nice. Yeah.
So those are pretty much in the canon, just about ready to go. I'm just waiting for a couple of technical specs from the Flight Test guys to put a bow tie on that and get those wrapped up and sent out.
How much time does that chew up for you doing a set of those plans for them?
I've always thought about sitting down and kind of going through one and kind of timing it, but I kind of, it's so piecemeal. Like I work on it here and there when I have time that it would almost take as much time to figure out how much time it takes. But I would say, and it really depends on, what plans you're talking about too. So something simple like an FT flyer, I could probably bang out in a couple of hours, but we talked about some of John's Master Series plans, right, that are available. Those took a really long time, much more complex and much more complicated. So I'd say on average, 15 to 20 hours, give or take.
Yeah, I could see that. The 3D XL, have you flown one of those?
I have not. No, I have not. I have not done a lot of building or flying since Flight Fest this year, unfortunately. Just lots of family stuff and other stuff going on. So
It seems to be popular this time of year.
I want to, because 3D is one of the things that I haven't really dabbled in much in the hobby. And I had a local buddy that was flying when I first started that was really good 3D pilot, and he kind of stepped away from the hobby for a good number of years, but he just came back like a year and a half ago. So the 3D is something that I definitely kind of want to build over the winter and take out there and just kind of have him show me the ropes and start, expanding my flying capability a little bit and dabbling in that 3D realm a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys that does not use my left thumb to steer the airplane at all. It's all throttle. So
Yeah.
I really, and my son Keegan gives me a hard time about it all the time.
Well, yeah. Now Keegan, okay, so we'll get into it a little bit, but Keegan is a full-scale pilot, correct?
Yeah. He graduated from the University of North Carolina about a year ago, last December, in commercial aviation and dual major in unmanned aerial systems. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He went and dove in head first, which is awesome, very, very exciting. So congratulations on fostering a love for that. If it wasn't already there before you said, "Hey, let's fly this plane."
He's actually the one that got me into the hobby, and but I'm pretty sure that the excitement for aviation was something that kind of I would think I sparked a little bit of that from an early age. Keegan and I have been to well, first of all, we live in Wisconsin and we're about 20 minutes south of Oshkosh. So Keegan's been to every single air venture since he was 6 months old.
Yeah.
We haven't missed one yet. So.
I'm pretty sure that event alone spawns nearly 50% of all the pilots and all the aviation enthusiasts in all of America. Right. It feels like.
I mean, he was looking up and pointing at airplanes before he was walking, and ever since he was a little kid, he always said he wanted to be a pilot, and
that's cool. Nice.
Followed his dream, and he's living the dream.
Well, that's one of the first things you learn is, hey, rudder is how you do things. Right. It's not this trainer plane is not a bank and yank. So get used to the rudder.
We talk about, I used to bank and yank the Cessna I flew the simulator with.
Yeah. You shouldn't have.
Oh yeah. I also shouldn't have landed it from 14,000 feet, a quarter mile from the runway, but simulator be simulator.
Stuff happens.
Yeah. Right.
That's right. Sometimes you got to put the bird down.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in the full scale section. But so with the 3D, so that was one of the things I've always wanted to build. For whatever reason, I keep wanting to build the 3D, the FT 3D flyer, and I don't know, everything else seems to put itself in front of it. But I'm eager to try that adventure too, because that's like one of the other stages, and I feel like the original 3D flyer is that size that mistakes aren't expensive. But maybe as you get to the 3D, like the big size, I don't know. Is it more or a lot of the servos still those kind of economical, and the motor is still.
Well, they recommend the 17 gram and the 2814, so they have a whole power setup, an economical power setup around it. It's the same power system that the Scout XL uses.
Okay.
And, other XL planes that they come out with in the future are going to be designed around that power setup. Okay. I think for me, like Keegan built the FT 3D and was doing all kinds of 3D stuff with it years ago when that thing first came out, and it was a great flyer. It was just at that point in time, I was pretty early into the hobby, and it was way more intimidating. And I think the bigger scale 3D is probably going to be easier to fly, kind of like the Scout XL,
right?
Is basically a big floaty trainer. So I think the 3D XL, while it's completely 3D capable, is probably going to be a little easier to learn 3D on than the smaller one. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's excellent. Sorry, you caught me mid-sip. So have you been working on anything else? I mean, I know you and I have been talking a little bit about one of the things I guess we'll highlight later in maybe the community section. But
that's what it looks like you got your notes for.
Yeah, but possibly talking about making a variant of one of your planes for like a Flight Fest flying circus.
Yeah.
Kind of fly in where excited. Anybody who wants to build one with us, we host build nights every month. And so, join us at one of those build nights and build one of these with us. We'll probably have a couple designated, maybe March and April or something. We'll designate those 2 months as bring out your wonder and get whatever variant you want. We would love you to grab ours, but at the same point, they're all pretty awesome. So whichever one gets you excited.
Yeah, it would be,
go build.
I'd be pretty excited to see a bunch of them, flying around at Flight Fest. Would be pretty cool. I had a pretty good time getting that design finally finished up and rolled out to the community. So yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and you ended up writing like a whole blog post about the history of that design and what all.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I don't know. You guys can probably go through your. What have you been doing in the hobby stuff? And we can get into that in a little bit more detail in a couple of minutes if you want. But yeah, that's a pretty good story in and of itself.
Okay.
All right.
Good. All right, Joe. Then
we never like to cut folks off, but we always end up doing that. I was like, okay, we're just going to talk about the last 2 weeks' adventure. We'll get into the good stuff later. We always wind up talking about some good stuff on the front end.
I know, right? That's okay. Hold on. Wait, what do we need? Okay. So Joe, why don't you talk about what you've been up to?
So we had the build night the Friday before the last episode went out, so coming up on 2 weeks ago, and I largely finished the FT Tiny Trainer. So I got the wings all glued up and put together, fuselage all done up. The power pod
looks good,
is glued in shape, and I got the firewall mounted. But I don't have a motor system for it. I don't have an ESC, and I have not mounted the servos. So the push rods are just run. They're connected to the rudder and elevator, but they're just long rods hanging inside the fuselage because I just don't have the electronics for it.
Oh, all right.
Which is probably going to be the story of my life with these tiny planes, the FT Mighty Minis and stuff that I've got over here, because I probably just won't get a power pack or power setup for them for a little while. But I've already pulled out the next build. I thought about going to the nice skin Spitfire that's still sitting on a shelf in the garage waiting to go. So you had printed out two skin sets for me.
Yep.
And I started with the less saturated version, I guess.
It was kind of
you did a draft print,
right?
It was opposed to a production quit.
Yep, draft level. Yep.
And so that's what I built and took to Flight Fest. My intention was to have both of them built, but I didn't. So I still got that one sitting there, glued up, cut out, ready to go. But I went ahead and pulled the Flurkin out that Jesse left for me. So
it's I heard it's a race between you and him to finish the Flurkin he started and got to where you're at now. The second time, and so I think you're almost currently starting at the same finish, same starting blocks.
Might be. I didn't realize there was going to be a race involved.
It doesn't have to be a race.
In which case he's likely to win. But
I don't know. Lately he's been been enjoying just getting in and chilling. Yeah. So
I think one build party he managed to put a piece of foam on a plane.
Yeah, but it is still good time, good conversation. So it's all good. Yeah. We would love it if you build stuff, but at the same point, even if you just come in and talk shop, it's always a good time. So
new props for the Phantom 3 came in.
Oh yeah.
Now I haven't put them on yet to verify that they fit and that they are the right props and that it'll fly. So I need to do that.
All right.
And then I need to have a look at the batteries again, because at least one of the new batteries I got for it was already throwing battery errors.
Oh.
And so I don't know if it was just cold out that weekend and so the batteries weren't properly warmed, or if there was a bigger problem. Yeah, I need to investigate, because I got them through Amazon. I can ship them back.
Yep.
And get replacements.
That's true.
So
All right. Well, wish you luck with that. I'm looking forward to hearing if you put everything back in and it works. And
you'll find out soon enough.
I'm sure it will. Excellent. Yeah, Joe and I are supposed to get up with each other later this month. So
We are?
I think so. We're supposed to be playing D&D theoretically at the end of this month, I think.
I thought it was in January.
You've got to pay attention to the thread. It's been moving around.
do. Usually my wife, like, okay, we're going out to Matt's place this weekend.
Yeah. They talked about the Thursday before the New Year. So.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it's been a moving
I knew there
target.
was some time I was supposed to be taking off work. Okay.
There you go. That's the one.
That's right. She did bring that up. Okay. Yeah. Moving on.
All right. Very good. So, is that, that's kind of the finish of what you want? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've got 2 nightstands in my garage that are for the bedroom that I was doing putty work on, and I need to sand up and paint and put electronics in, but
okay. That's different.
That's a different hobby.
Yeah, that's a different podcast.
This isn't Woodworker Noob Podcast.
Well, wait a second. That's a good idea. All right. Well, let's see. So, when we were at the build night, I ended up pulling out the Special K, which is basically the Kraken. And Dan, I know you possibly have seen some of the serial based flyers that I've put together, the liveries that I've put. I've got a Tony, Tony cool. The Explorer, Toucan Sam Goblin.
Sam. Yep.
Yeah, that turned out great.
That's my favorite.
Yep. Sorry about that.
It's okay. And so you weren't look, that plane that's its weak spot right there at the nose, at its connection where the wing, like right in front of it.
Oh,
you were not the first person.
I busted a couple.
Yeah, you're not the first or last person to bust that nose right off. Poor Toucan.
Right.
But it was spectacular.
It was great though. Yeah, it was fun. It always nose into the ground. Oh man. All right, we'll fix it. So yeah, I mean it's I think last time I flew it, I burned out an ESC or something. Like, oh, maybe I'm not getting all the air I thought I was getting across it.
Yeah, you put a 6.0 in that, didn't you?
Yeah. And then I put in like a more standard, like 2212 1400 kV motor. And then I had like a 30 amp ESC, and I think I burned it out. The ESC at least. But yeah, I definitely burned out the 6L one. Yeah, that was pretty spectacular. That was wonderful. It went really fast for like maybe a second.
Short amount of time.
Yeah, about a second. Okay, that's it. And it just went dead.
Favorite planes.
Yeah.
It's like, gee, I don't remember installing a smoke system.
Yeah. I was like, a smoke system. Oh, wait.
For a half a second.
Well, for that half a second, it went fast. So one of the suggestions when I built the Kraken, had Tim help me out in getting a Kraken pre-cut deal. So it made the building process a little bit faster. Because we have an idea. We're also trying to fly. We're also trying to put together a couple large builds specifically to fly at Flite Fest so people can attack them.
Nice.
So we're kind of rolling around a couple of concepts of that. So he's like, here, just you build this one. I'll build one of mine. We'll get that experience. And we want to build on that and put something together from that. So we built the Kraken, and I was trying to figure out what kind of livery I wanted to do. And I talked about last time, I put together a Postman butterfly top. So it's kind of red and with little white spots and kind of black ribbing, or veining, I guess you'd call it. And on the underside, I was trying to figure out what in the world to do. It's like, it's a Kraken, right? You want to put the tentacles or something like that, right? And Tony, one of our members here, he said, make it the Special K and do the serial, you know?
Oh, is that Flying Tiger?
Yeah, Flying Tiger.
Yeah, he's local to me. I get to see him every once in a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that one of the guys you go and get to see? It's, you know, because he lives right there. Yeah, he was excited. He's like, oh yeah, Dan's right here. Yeah. Anyway, so he suggested a Special K. I'm like, in. I'm doing it. So I took the Special K logo and I blew it up. All I've got is a standard laser printer, but you can kind of take the image and size it up and crop it and, you know, move them around so there are a couple sheets. You know, careful trimming and all that stuff. And all of a sudden I've got this giant K in between the two nacelles. And then on the right side, I printed out a big bowl and made a blue field kind of underneath it. just like the
Nice.
special K box. And on the left side, I blew up, Kraken tentacles. It's kind of standard icons, and I just blew them up to ridiculous size, and then cut them all out, and they kind of cover the whole left side of the wing with a bunch of tentacles coming up towards it. So
very cool.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good. So I'm really pleased with that. I got that. Not only did I get the livery finished, but I was able to put I think I didn't have any landing gear together, and the wires were kind of in place, but they hadn't been tested. So I finished putting the motor pods on and tested the motors and got the setup going on in the transmitter. So now I've got differential and I've got multiple rates, and all the things seem to be working the way they're supposed to. But I hadn't put any of that stuff inside. Then I cut the wires and I bent all the wires, and I had these 2 giant wheels that I brought to Flight Fest 22. And I'm like, they're like 3-inch 3D printed tires, and they work great. So I just put those on the bottom, and they're the perfect size for that too. So really at this point, today I finished kind of fishing the wires inside everything. And hooked it all back up. And I haven't done a run-up test just to confirm that everything's working the way it's supposed to still. But it looks like I'll be able to maiden, especially if it's nicer weather later this week. I think Thursday's supposed to rain, so I'll see if I can get out there at lunch today, or tomorrow, see if I can give it a maiden. But probably before this episode releases, it'll have flown once at least.
Nice.
However long, hopefully for a long time. And then I really haven't made any movements on the B2, as it's week 2 of a new job, and it's the busy time of year where there's a lot of family stuff and holiday events and things like that to kind of be part of. So, but that's still in the back burner of things to do. So next time you'll hear about that. But I did get another chance to get out to fly full scale. I've been working on my pilot's license. Every once in a while, I get to make some progress. Last time I went out, I flew out to an airport. I'm not really used to kind of kicking the wheels off with a new pilot, or a new CFI. And it turns out like we meshed pretty well, which is great. We kind of flew out for a little ways. We kind of went around and we started doing circuits. But we had to fly out to like the next town over, and we're doing the circuits out there. And on the third touch and go, as we're kind of coming up, we have full throttle going up, and all of a sudden we started to feel the motor power kind of stutter.
Uh-oh.
Well, it kind of like it just went to we'll call it to 80% and then back to 100. So I was like, oh, that kind of like that was weird. And then we felt it a couple of okay, that's not good. I mean, it's still running. Like, it's not like it stopped. But we were up at about 500 feet, kind of about to turn crosswind. And I kind of like it did that a couple times. She went and turned the carb heat on in case it was icing. And it didn't really change. And she kind of looked at me and I'm like, are you feeling that? And she's like, yeah, I want to see if you feel like this. I'm like, that doesn't feel right. I said, it's not terrible. We could probably go for a while with that, but I just imagine that it would create a lot of vibrations, and that could probably do more, cause more problems than anything. But again, the motor was still going. We were still getting pulled. And I think when we pulled back the throttle a little bit, it seemed to, that stutter went away. But we both kind of looked at each other like, let's just go back down to the ground and see if we can call people. Yeah,
it's time to land now.
Yeah, that's kind of what she's like. Yeah, let's go land. And and I'm like, that's fair enough. And she's like, I'm going to take control. I'm like, okay, you are pilot in control. Put my hands off the controls and kind of let her know that it's her plane. And we did a slip inside. We had plenty of runway. It's a big. We fly at the home airport. It's like a 2-lane road for 2,000 feet, and then we're at this other airport where it's a full size runway. It's wide and big, and we had plenty of room to go. So for our little Cessna, it was easy. So she, got it crabbed down and brought it down as reasonably fast as possible, brought it to the ground, and, just tested it out. And we just kind of went and just checked through to see if it was repeatable and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, the mechanic came out and we just switched planes. And I got to fly the Piper Warrior on the way home. So
Nice.
yeah, got to fly that plane is so nice. That's like getting a drive in a sports car compared to like the little sedan. You know, it's nice. It was good. So anyway, it was a little bit of an adventure. It was before I'd started my job, so I had a little bit of time. So I wasn't stressing out about how much, oh no, I have to get somewhere. So it was nice. It was a good way to kind of see how adventures in the air feel. And she's like, we handled that pretty well. I'm like, oh, well, we had power. We could make it, if we were halfway between one airport and the other, I'd be far more concerned, but we were in a spot where we were in good shape. I mean, that's not where you want to lose power, right? On the pull out at 500 feet, as you're making the first turn, is not the best place to have an issue. That's usually where you run into big problems, right?
It's one of the worst spots to lose power.
It really is. Again, glad we didn't lose power and we could kind of come back in with ease. So, but yeah, it was interesting to kind of roll down that mental checklist of, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. This is how we got to get back. Can we do this? Can we do that? Check. Get ourselves down safe. And we did that. So it's hasn't turned me off of becoming a pilot. Just, it's just another part of the adventure.
Well, those are the kind of things that they can't script for.
No.
They train you for it. They put you in situations, but it was good for her to see that you recognized and felt the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely good. Yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those things, you like you said, you train for it, but rarely do you get into the opportunity, thankfully. And this was one of those, if you're going to have that opportunity, it's almost like getting a partial opportunity. It wasn't anything life-threatening or anything like that. But it definitely had that, okay, now this is not a drill. We do need to go through the process. And let's go do it. So it was good. Yeah. Let you know that, these planes are old. Even though, and the other thing is it just had its 100-mile checkup. So, it was kind of one of the first flights back out. So if they changed a bunch of stuff and, maybe some of it wasn't up to pressure or whatever it might be, usually they kind of run it up, I guess. But, that's where you're going to have if it's going to be a hiccup, it'll be there. So I'm not entirely surprised either, but I knew like after that, it'd be good for a long while, another 100 miles. So, all right. So
well, I'm glad you made it back safe.
Yeah, thanks. Me too. But it was good. So why don't we move on to our community and talk about what's been going on in Discord, when our next build night is, and want to thank our patrons for, participating every month and helping make this show possible. Really appreciate the support and, really just letting us know that this is worth something to them,
Yeah. It's Matt and I talk about it pretty regular when we have our conversations, that we're thankful for everybody who participates, and we're especially thankful for our patrons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regarding a build night, we don't really have a dedicated one. I know the current thought is the Saturday that would be New Year's or New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve to try to do it in the morning, though I think you had plans for the Saturday.
I think I have a plan in the evening. So really just doing a midday one where, with 11 to 3 would probably be fine.
Eastern time?
Yeah, Eastern Standard Time.
Are we standard or daylight?
We're standard time right now.
Okay.
Yep.
So Eastern daylight, and then depending on what's going on at my house, like if my wife is out of town, I may keep on building all the way to the ball drop. We'll see.
Okay, cool.
ring in the new year, and anybody who wants to hang with me, if that's what I'm able to do, is welcome to hang out with me.
Nice. I wanted to mention some of the challenges that are kind of coming up. As a community, you want to have these in mind when you're joining us in a build night. Let's see and maybe maybe Dan can talk a little bit about it, because I know you've kind of been part of this, and maybe this can kind of we'll lead into your stuff in a moment. The Flite Fest 2023 barnstorming. You're sort of in that corral, right? Helping that happen?
Yeah. There's a few of us that kind of are like talking and coordinating, that kind of grassroots kind of group build fly thing that we do just about every Flite Fest. We have some kind of special thing, just a community gathering where we try to do something different and unique. Like this past Flite Fest, it was the Dawn Patrol again, which is one that we did way back in 2015 or 2016. We just kind of revisited it at a larger scale, and that's where the Scout XL came in. But for next year, we're talking about doing a barnstorming event. So kind of that golden age biplane barnstorming kind of
flying circus kind of fun.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Now, is there? I heard rumors that there's going to be an actual a faux barn, as it were. Is it?
Yeah, we've been talking about it. I don't know that there's any real specific details on how we're gonna try and pull that off yet. Whether they're gonna try and do something with foam board or tarps or some kind of a frame or something.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things that they'd like to do, just have some kind of special flying events, right? So we did the gaggle this year, and it was just kind of a Dawn Patrol flight and then some streamer combat. But what we were talking about doing for this year is having more of competitions where you can score points and win prizes or something like that. So
all right,
fly through a barn or do some limbo, or I'm sure there'll be some combat involved in there somewhere. There usually always is. But, just come up with something fun for a lot of the community to participate in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's I don't know, even if it's something you don't participate in, just the idea of what would you come up with, what would you build, what would you design, even if you do one in your own club, just that always inspires. All those build challenges always inspire me to kind of say, ooh, what would I do, and can I do that? Can I pull that off in the 2 months or however much time I end up leaving myself? Usually way too little time.
Right, 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's about right.
Finish building it at Flite Fest.
Yeah. So you were there for the the SR-72. that was like a 1 month build.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I can't believe I decided to do that. Anyway,
that was pretty cool.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I still it's in the background here. You can see it over behind my shoulder here, but
kind of.
Yeah, it's
all black.
It's a dark mass in the back, so it doesn't really help much. But it's there because it will be revisited, and I'm going to have more fun with it. But I always seem to find more new, interesting, fun, ridiculous stuff to do. So, speaking of that, this would be another time where we talk about the Flite Fest 23. Like last time we did Spitfires, we had an Aviation RC Noob podcast group fly. I think this year we're going to call it the Aviation RC Noob Flying Circus. And we're going to inspire, see if people want to join us by building a foam wonder, maybe an Aviation RC Noob wonder, if we can. Noob wonder, maybe that's what we call it. I don't know what we're still trying to figure it out. Matter of fact, you can probably help us out if you come into, there is a channel in the Discord server called the FF 2023. Right now it's the Aviation RC or ARCN Gaggle. We'll probably change that to the Flying Circus. But go in there, you'll see some of the history of our discussions and some of the initial ideas. But we'd love to hear, what do you think a flying noob or a noob wonder would look like? I know I came up with some ideas, and I know Dan and Joe and I have been, kind of pushing around a couple of ideas. I think we're going to find our top 3 by the end of this month, and and see if we can get a decision on it.
Mm-hmm. Because ultimately, Dan, you've offered to draw the plans up and get all that done. Which, thank you so much for being willing to do that and offering.
Yeah, absolutely, my pleasure.
And so we want to be able to have that done and have that information or that ultimate final design to you, so that you're not trying to crunch a million things out last minute. You've got some time to work on it.
Wait, would that be a wonder noob or a noob wonder?
Yes.
Good
answer.
Maybe we put the name up to a vote too, but ultimately that's up to Dan because it is his child.
Yep.
So don't want to take anything from you on that one.
Yeah, and as a guy who flew it until the battery came out, it was a good flyer. The Wonder.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a passion project for a long time, actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It shows.
If you don't know the Dan's history of it, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but you did a whole article write-up. Let's plan to have that in the show notes, Matt, a link to that article.
Do you have it?
I can find it.
I think I posted it on the forum, so
yeah,
it's pretty funny. So I started, I don't know if we want to get into how'd you get started in the hobby, but this might be a good segue.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll find a place that it's probably a reasonable break, and we'll scoot into our history for a moment, and we'll come back.
You say a moment.
What?
Yeah. So, I got into the RC hobby, back in 2013, and oddly enough, so I talked about my son Keegan a little bit already. My wife and I bought him a UMX Spitfire and a Spectrum DX5 radio, like budget entry level stuff for Christmas in 2012, to get him into the hobby because he's always been into airplanes and stuff like that. So we got him that for Christmas. I convinced him to fly it on Christmas Day in the backyard, and he immediately flew it into our swing set in the backyard and kind of smashed it up a little bit, and I felt horrible about it. But anyway, that's not really how I got into it. But it wasn't that long after that Keegan said, "Hey, you should check out this YouTube channel." Because I was interested in like watching him fly, and I had always been wanting to fly RC. I flew line control, bigger line control stuff, as well as like the little Cox plastic models way back in the day with my brothers and my dad when I was 12 years old. So back in the real early 80s, and all the way up until high school. And then so we built balsa line control planes, all nitro stuff or glow stuff, and I flew those for a really long time. But
line control
RC was
line control stuff seems just way harder in some ways than just like flying regular, because you're always one twitch away from hitting it on the ground.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to get away from going and that's it.
Oh, we piled so many of those things and turned them into just absolute confetti, which is, part of the fun sometimes too when you're a teenage boy. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so I took a really long break from doing anything, hobby related as far as model airplanes and stuff until Keegan, pointed me to the Flight Test channel, and I watched a couple of the videos and saw what they were doing with dollar sheets of foam board and super cheap electronics from Hobby King in China and whatnot, and I'm like,
right,
because as a kid, I looked at all the magazines and I really wanted to do it, but just didn't have the financial means to get into it, or a year to build a plane only to like crash it after 30 seconds, right? So along comes flight test, and then in 2013 when they started putting out their plans for their planes and stuff, they had the Nutball and the Flyer and the Delta and the Bloody Wonder and stuff came out, and I just said, okay, this is affordable enough that I can try, and if I'm not any good at it, then I didn't spend a lot of money to find out that I'm not very good at it and I don't like it. But here I am, like, I don't know, 9 years later, still doing it. So yeah, I'm hooked. So yeah, I started out with the Delta, the Nutball, and the Flyer, and I was flying it off the old Hobby King Blue Wonder motor on a 2-cell, and was having no luck whatsoever. I couldn't keep the thing in the air, and I think what it turned out to be was just trying to fly it off the 2-cell, which I think back in the day they had a recommendation for 2 or 3-cell on that, and I was just did not have enough power to get out of any mistakes that I was getting into, and I crashed them left and right. And then I decided I'm going to build something with ailerons, because I don't get this whole rudder and elevator thing. Just doesn't seem normal to me.
See our previous discussion about how you don't use the left stick rather than throttle.
Yes, I am very bank and yank. But then I built a Bloody Wonder. And put a 3-cell battery in it, and I basically learned how to fly on that, and ever since then I've been hooked.
It's a great plane. It really is such a great beginner plane. Now, I think my first experience with success with that was also the first experience with a battery fire, because it went well and went straight up, and then I panicked and cut off the throttle and it went straight down, and then it piled into the ground, and I had those threaded screws for the wood thread, so they're nice and pointy, which was pointing right into where the battery slammed into
the battery poppers. Yeah. I think that's what they call those.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Well, needless to say, I ran over, pulled it out, and kind of threw it into the parking lot. So if it's catching fire, at least I'm going to, not catch the field that I was in on fire too. Anyway, but yeah. So but it's a great flyer. I mean, it really is a simple, quick build. It's easy to control. You can bank and yank. You can do a rudder if you want to get more fancy.
Right, you could. Yep. What I like to tell people with that too, I mean, it's not really a trainer or a beginner plane, but if you build it on the light power setup on a 3-cell and keep the rates down, it's very manageable first plane. But I like I said, I don't typically recommend that to people that are brand new to the hobby, but that's the plane I learned to fly on.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, once you've got a little experience under your belt, build it and put a B-pack in it, get feel for it real good, and then when you decide to take it to another level, put a C-pack in it, it is a whole new experience of relearning it.
Yeah, and then dial your rates up until it spins like a top. And
so don't do what I did, which is set the rates to top and reverse the expo. Have the opposite of what you should have had for the expo. Yeah, it'll work out great.
Make it even twitchier.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was awful. But
first 50%, first 75% of your control happens in the first 10% of your.
Yeah. It should be easy. Yeah. Should be easy. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Breathe on the sticks and it's going to be doing rolls all over.
Yeah. Or, do what you should have done, what I should have done, which is just say, do I have this set up right? Somebody looked at it like, no, that's off. Anyway, yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, it is. It's a great first plane. It really is like after you kind of get the left-right hang of it, I guess. Where it's coming at you and you reverse direction and your brain doesn't know what to do at first, and then your brain kind of fixes that. And once you've done that, I think you're ready to pull that plane out and see what you can do with it.
Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't more than a couple of months after I started getting some success with the Bloody Wonder that I already jumped into the CAD software and started working on, making modifications to it and coming up with different ideas for how to make one that looks a little different or, start doing some of that design work. So, I mean, it all kind of snowballed within the first 3 or 4 months. I was already working on designing planes.
Yeah.
Back to the point with the Wonder was that was one of the planes that I'd remembered seeing in, magazines back in the day when I was, thinking how great it would be to be able to get into RC and stuff like that. And everybody talks about the Wonder.
Yeah.
You still see the Balsa Wonders all over the place. At flying fields and whatnot, and it's an iconic model, right? Everybody knows what it is. So that was one of the ones where I was like, and it's a really simple design too, right? You look at it and you're like, oh, you can make that out of foam board. It's a box fuselage with a wing on it.
That's
and
it.
A plank for a tail.
It's so basic, so basic.
So yeah, I started designing that plane back in 2013 when I first got into the hobby. and I never finished that design. There were so many things that I played around with it, and I went back and forth to that design on and off over the years, and just was never really, really happy with it. But, I mean, they all flew pretty decent. The first one that I made, I just kind of looked at pictures of it and just winged it literally and put something together. And I actually took the very first, well, it wasn't the first prototype because I killed that one in combat with my nephew, but one of the earlier prototypes I actually took to the very first Flite Fest. And it's kind of funny because when I met Josh Bixler for the first time, that was the plane that I asked him to fly. So he flew that one of the earlier prototypes of the Wonder. And that's the same event where he saw the Baron for the first time and asked me if they could kit it. And he always got confused, like he thought he flew the Baron, but he actually flew the Wonder the first time I met him. Yeah, so
nice,
interesting story. But coming full circle, when I was finishing up the design this past year, Josh was up at EAA at Oshkosh, and they have RC flying there in the evenings now over at Pioneer Field, which is awesome. So you get to fly radio control planes while the air show is going on, which is pretty awesome. So Flight Test was up there again this year, and Josh was out at the field, and I brought my Wonder up there, and he flew the final version of it before I released the plan. So kind of full circle with Bixler getting to try those out.
Okay. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. So is that how you got introduced to him? And then did you mention him like, hey, I do, like, what do you do for a living, by the way?
I am a mechanical designer. I basically worked in engineering for the last 25 plus years. Okay.
So
educationally, I have an associate's degree in mechanical design, and I have a bachelor's in computer science. So a lot of what I do is more on the CAD administration side of it with the software and stuff like that. But I've been a mechanical designer for many, many years. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I just feel like the idiot in the room.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because that's where I imagine he asked you like, oh, how'd you come up with this or all this stuff? And you're probably like, well, I drew it up myself and, CAD. And he's probably like, is that how'd that go down?
No, that's not really how that all went down. He just liked the designs initially. The whole plans thing didn't happen until like a year later. So like after he asked me if they could kit the Baron, I had been working back and forth with Josh for like over a year before they actually released it or whatnot. But I had been working with a few of the folks on the Flight Test forums. Have always been talking, like, I don't know if you worked with the original Flight Test PDF files that they sent out for the free plans and stuff like that. Didn't have a lot of formatting. They basically took their laser files and put them in PDF format for people to be able to build on their own. The tiling, some of them were tiled, some of them weren't. The tiling wasn't all that great. And a few of us on the forums, particularly Blue on the forums, was one that kind of got the ball rolling with like, hey, how can we like improve these and make these a little more user friendly for the Scratch builder? So that's kind of where that all started. And then I just kind of picked up the ball with that, with my background in CAD and design, and kind of worked with the community to come up with a format that would work for, formatting the lines and the fills and stuff like that, so you could print it in either color or black and white, but still have all the information that you needed on the plans to help along with the build videos to get those to work. So I came up with all the formatting and stuff like that with some help from the community. And I had actually been doing some of the plans probably for a couple of months already. Before, and I never even asked Flight Test. And then like, I kind of felt bad. I'm like, I never even asked them if they were okay with me doing this. But then, so what really, really kicked off me doing the plans in an official capacity for Flight Test was when the Bushwhacker plans came out in 2015. And I don't know if you remember any of that, but when those got released, there was an issue with the plans. Some people couldn't even open the PDF files, and I think there were some pages missing, and it was just kind of there were some issues with it.
Sure.
And when those came out, I was really excited for that plane. I think it was one of Peter's first planes, but it was really cool, like stall, 3D capable, kind of cool looking plane that Peter came up with.
Yeah, that was like the first thing.
I really kind of want to build that one.
Yeah, that was like, he came out with it and he's like, oh, I did this thing with, was an AKK board and turned it into a stall plane. So you can do, if you want to, you can go do it. But like, here's what I designed so you could do all sorts of weird stuff with it.
I think that one was Was that
the right
Explorer Bronco one where you put the VTOL?
Oh, it was a Bronco. Yeah, it was a Bronco. Yeah. That's right. I'm sorry. So they look.
The Bushwhackers is little stall.
Yeah. Okay, I know.
But cool plane, and that was back in the day when everybody was like hitting the FTP site, kind of waiting for the new plans to come out, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I was one of those nerds and geeks too, kind of waiting for those plans to come out. And then when those came out and people were having issues and posting about them on the forums, I basically stayed up that whole night and redrew the plans, reformatted everything, and had them ready to go the next morning.
Right.
And put them out on the forums because people were having issues with them and everybody was excited to build it.
Yeah.
And then Alex Zavada, who's no longer at Flight Test, but he was one of the main guys at Flight Test back then, reached out to me and asked me if they could use those as the official plans and just replace the ones that they had had already released. And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And then I just asked, can I put my name on it so people knew that I did it? And they were totally fine with that. So that's kind of how that whole thing got started. And then after that, I kind of reached out to Josh and I'm like, hey, just so you know, I feel real bad. I never asked you guys if I could do this to begin with, but I've actually done this for a few of your other plans before and just have been giving them out. And he was totally fine with it. And he asked me, yeah, would you like to do that in an official capacity? And I said, yeah, I would love to do that. I would love to help the rest of the community out with that.
Right.
And I think it's been pretty well received. I think people genuinely like the format that we've come up with for the plans.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. from and one of the first things I remember, because I'm a K, I'm like, I think I know exactly what he's doing. And then you issued kind of like the core sheet set, like, hey, here's the template for the page, take it and do whatever plans you want to, here's the front page, here's all the stuff. And you issued it as a DWG file. So I can't even remember where.
You know what? That wasn't me. I can't take credit for that. I never actually technically published my template file at all.
Oh, okay.
But one of the other guys on the forum who was using a different CAD package, I don't even remember what the name of it is, but his Local Fiend,
right.
Dale on
Dale.
the forums.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing a lot of design work and stuff like that too. And
yeah, he was.
We talked a lot back in the day. I haven't really spoke to him much. He hasn't been around too much in the community lately, but we had spoke, and I completely gave my blessing to go ahead and put that file out there with all the formatting and stuff like that on there.
Yeah. So between the two, thank you guys so much, because that's what spawned me starting to design my own planes. Like, I had the template, so I didn't have to, I could have come up with a sheet and all that stuff, but it was like, it's already there. So all I had to do was kind of come up with my own logo and just, use the match command to kind of get a lot of the basics started, and then, do like everybody else does, and, pull a 3D view and just start working at a plane. And all of a sudden I'm able to make sheets of the easy print and just dump on a plan set or on a sheet of foam board, and off I go, which is great. So thank you. That spawned all the planes I've designed.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm glad that a lot of people have kind of taken that format and kind of run with it. That was kind of the intent, right? To make it easier to, if you're that sort that you want to design something and you want to share it with everybody else and, give that out for free, use the format that's there. It works. Everybody kind of knows it and can follow along with it. So I'm really happy that other folks have picked that up and taken it and run with it and use that to share their designs with the rest of the community as well. Cause that's what it's all about. I mean, for me, this is my way to give back something that like I can never fully repay Flight Test for what they've given me, for the experience that I got to have with my son Keegan in this hobby, to spend that time together, to do all these builds, to have all that free information that they've given us over the years, just to be able to take that. There's no way I can, totally repay them for what I've gotten from them, but this is, fits my skill set, and this is something that I could give back to the community, and I'm more than happy to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the feeling. That's part of why whenever I put together a design, as good or bad as it was, the plans always, when I got to the point where I'm like, I know it can at least be put together. I can't fly because I'm awful at flying, but like maybe one of you guys can. And I'd always, almost all the stuff has a plan set with it. The stuff that I put up there, and then until they started to put like the resource list, and I'm like, okay, well, let me put most of my stuff up as resources. I'm all about it. I think that's part of what makes the Flight Test forum so welcoming, is that it's available for anybody to really, I'll call it, get started and get interested. Right, and there's nobody who's going, no, this one's mine. I did get out of here. It's like, no, just try it. Go ahead. It's a couple bucks. And the guys like us that want to get into doing some of the design work and stuff like that too, we don't get as much time to practice flying, so we can not be as good at flying, and just that's what I always tell myself anyway, because Keegan can fly circles around me. Oh yeah. Like whenever I fly enough, I can keep it in the air now, but it took a while.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, but it scratched the itch that I had. I went from doing a lot of woodworking design, hand sketches, as well as some CAD stuff. And I would take that and try to, turn that into furniture or whatnot. And that's that design need, that's something in my brain that always needs that thing. And the woodworking was that quick turnaround, where I have an idea, and in my professional job, it takes years to see it. So in this way, it's like, okay, in a month I can see it. So the plane, doing this and doing the designing plane, was the same kind of deal. It was that immediate kind of tactile feedback of what I had in my head and seeing it come to life. Like, for example, you see behind me the Drachenflieger, which, like, I just said, I think I could do that. And all of a sudden, in a week, I've got this thing. It's a ridiculous mess in the background there. But yeah, like, to me, that's the itch, and everybody's got a different need, right? You're in the hobby for a different reason. Some people just want to fly, but they want to see how different things fly. And that's part of what I do the designs for. So I'm like, I wonder what this flies like, some of them are handful. Some of them fly way better than you think. Some of them, I don't know. It's just interesting to see how some subtle changes really make a big difference in flight characteristics. And yet some planes look dramatically different, yet they fly very similarly. It's pretty neat to see. And you get it, and doing full scale flying, I'm surprised at how much, I guess, what you do in the field translates to the full scale. Like, you're like, I know what's going to happen, because I've done it with my, I've done it with my plane, and I know it gets dangerous because I've watched my plane go down in the backfield, because I did it too low. It's like, okay, when you're doing the stall techniques and all that kind of stuff, or you're training for emergencies, right? Anyway, so yeah, everybody's got a different itch. So it's nice that this hobby can kind of scratch exactly
what you mean with, that foam board medium is such a quick medium to be able to build in and stuff too. And I get the same, like, I started 3D printing because of this hobby too. So, and again, my background with CAD software, I've done a lot of 2D and 3D design. So I've done a lot of 3D stuff now too with the hobby, where I'm designing parts, and that's one of those other almost instant gratification things too. You can design a part in CAD, spit out an STL file, slice it, throw it on the printer, and a couple hours later you got a part, and you can tweak from there. So yeah, I totally understand that medium for being able to really rapid prototype, basically.
Yeah,
very quickly.
Yeah, and I think that, the hot glue is really kind of, I feel like, what seals the deal on that.
You don't have to sit there and wait for it to dry.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the other glues, I got to wait an hour. I got to wait whatever. So you do it, you set it up, and you leave it till the next day. Whereas this is like, let it set up, okay, and go. Let's go. Next part. Let's do it.
Right.
It's a different.
Or that set up way too fast, and I messed that up, so now I get to cut a new piece and re-glue it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's nice of you to actually do that. I never do that. I'm too impatient.
Okay.
Like, we'll see how this flies. You're like,
Story of
too.
Matt's career in this. We'll see how it flies.
yeah.
It'll be fine.
Well, and that's one of the things with the medium and the scale that we're working at too, right? You can mess it up pretty bad, and it's still probably going to fly just fine.
It's pretty forgiving. Thankfully.
Ought to see how out of square all my planes are.
Right. No, most of them aren't too bad. I think only one or two. I was like, what? Well, okay. So he flew a Spitfire, FT Spitfire, one of the originals, right? He flew it into an oak tree and ripped off like the whole front lower quarter panel off the whole plane, right? Whole thing's just ripped to pieces. He's like, it'll fly. And he
Send it.
He just sent it.
I flew it into an oak tree at 3/4 throttle because I said, "No, I'm on this side of the tree. I'm not that far out." And full commit straight into the limbs.
Yeah,
and it sheared the wings clean off the fuse. And yeah, they're like the whole nose cover section. The not basically what you would put doublers on for the nose of the fuselage. One whole side of that was just gashed out.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fine.
And I asked him, I said, aren't you going to like cut a piece and just cut out of one thing and put a replacement piece in its thing? He's like, it should be fine. And he threw it.
Too much work.
Off it went, and it flew great.
But
yeah,
this
it's amazing what a little hot glue and some tape can do for these foam board planes.
He didn't even use
and how long you can keep them.
Yeah.
Keep them flying.
Yeah. Well, he didn't even use the hot glue or the tape. He just left the gaping hole.
Sender.
Oh, I glued the mess out of that wing to put it back on the fuselage.
The wing, sure, yeah. But
yeah,
you didn't fix any of the aerodynamics of that fuselage one bit.
No, because here's the thing. That was the same Spitfire that I lost radio signal on and smacked into that privacy fence and snapped it in half at the back of the cockpit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm done with it. And you taped and glued it back together. So at that point, I was like, all right, like it's already died once. So
let's see how many lives this one's got.
Yeah, like what am I going to say?
Right. So you talked about the Bloody Baron, and one of, I think, the earliest successes as a community, I'll call it for Flight Fest or for Flight Test and for Flight Fest, is so there was a Gotha Gaggle, and it kind of pull it into the Bloody Baron and the variants of the Bloody Brit, and then it kind of created the us versus them. Did you design the Gotha Gaggle? I can't remember.
I did not. Well, I mean, if you're talking about the event, then kind of, sort of. So that all happened with Joshua Orchard wanted to build that big Gotha.
That's right.
I think it's a Gotha 4 bomber.
Right. And he built it.
He was building, and it was huge.
Yeah, it was
right?
8 feet wingspan at least, and it's a biplane, so it's massive.
It was massive. It was pretty cool. All foam board, very cool.
Very cool.
Printed lozenge camo. Yeah, it was very, very cool looking. But he had this like idea that he wanted some escort planes to fly with him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just a couple of people build some kind of plane to fly escort for him. And I think I was already working on the Baby Baron, and if I wasn't, that's where it was born. I don't remember where it all played out. I'd have to go back and look at my notes and stuff. But
and so the Baby,
that's kind of how that whole thing started.
And if you aren't aware, the Baby Baron is basically the 5-inch propeller version of the Bloody Baron, which is a 8-inch, 9-inch prop, right?
Right.
So it's just, scale it down by like
comes out to the Bloody Baron is a 28-inch wingspan. It's exactly the same size as a Bloody Wonder.
Right.
And I don't remember what percentage I used, but the Baby Baron and the Baby Brit, I think, are around like a 15-inch wingspan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Runoff, designed around the APAC motors at the time.
Yeah.
They're actually, in my opinion right now, if I had to go back and do it again, I would make it a little bit bigger.
Yes.
They're actually kind of a little they're super twitchy.
Yeah, they're
Not a
quite a
beginner
handful.
plane. It was so funny. There were so many people that tried to maiden their baby Barons during that flight, and I'm like, yeah, you really need to get a handle on flying that thing. It is a handful. But once you get it dialed in and get the rates right and the throws right, it's a fun little plane.
It is.
I haven't flown one in quite a few years, but I had a blast with those.
Yeah. Yeah,
but it is definitely not a beginner plane. It is a very advanced plane. Simple build
to fly, simple to build.
Right,
you'll have one
and they're
done
so
in an
small.
hour.
And they're so small and durable because they still have the doublers on the fuselage for that thing. I mean, you can. You could fly that right into a tree and it would bounce off, and you could throw it back in the air again.
Yeah, I think I had a telephone pole with that. Same. It happened. Yep.
So that whole Gothic Gaggle thing just happened spontaneously on the forums, just like a lot of the other stuff that we've ended up doing at Flight Fest over the years. And that was really, I think, that was the big first, kind of community-led group. Well, not the first one. I think Dan Cruz did a all bloody wonder combat called the NASBOC back in 2015 or 2014 or something like that. But this was one of the first really big ones where we tried to involve a lot of the community, and that's where Rasterize kind of came onto the scene with all the skins and stuff. And I think we ended up with
look at Dan dropping all these OG names.
I know, right? Well, no, and that was the thing is he, it's like, okay, so you had Josh Orchard putting together the lozenge pattern, right, on this, oh wow, look at that. I remember.
I think Steven actually put that together and printed it out on his plotter for Joshua for that bomber too.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, that'll be, and I think he created a pattern for himself or something like that, and maybe one for you. And then everybody's like, hey, this is awesome. Hey, could you come up with a couple more? And everybody kept adding requests, and he's like, oh, this is great.
It piled on. He loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
It was a great time.
And I think when you look at it, somebody put together a poster of all of them.
Yep, Steven did that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I still have mine.
It's fantastic because you look at them, you're like, oh my God, there's 40 or 50 different kinds of
There's
patterns.
At least 50. I think there was almost 60.
They're fantastic. I wish we could.
It was really cool.
Go ahead.
Steven, I don't think Steven did his own or built his own, but one of the community members, and this was so long ago, I don't even remember exactly who did it, but we're all talking and kind of outside of the chat without Steven in there, and came up with the idea of building him a plane, and they all decided on doing a Hello Kitty themed.
That's where that one comes
skin for his plane. Yes. And he ate that up at Flight Fest. He loved it. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a good one. If I recall right, I think one of the colors I saw was pink, which is indicative of kind of Hello Kitty, but. If you're trying to, not to be sexist, I guess, but I know when I asked my girlfriend at the time, I'm like, hey, if you were to fly one, which one of these patterns would you be interested in? She's like, yeah, Hello Kitty looks pretty good. Let's do that. It's pink. I'm in. Nice. I was like, all right, cool. Let's do that. So yeah, then I flew mine, which I grabbed one of the other ones and I flew that, and I was like, oh, this thing's way too twitchy, until I figure out how to dial it in and get it better. I don't want her to have that kind of frustration.
The throw's got to be a millimeter in each direction, and you got to have 60% expo or something in there to get it to tame down enough to be controllable.
Yeah,
a millimeter in each direction.
I'm exaggerating a little bit.
It's not
but
much.
It's very minute.
Yeah, it's like it's like a quarter inch maybe.
And it's still very, very
again, 60%. Because remember that APAC airflow is pretty much covering most of that wing.
Yeah.
It's so all the prop wash over the surfaces it's real.
She can get a little twitchy.
Yeah, that's for sure. But it's a good build. That's a lot of fun. So then I know in the previous couple of years, you've kind of led some. How did you get into leading, I guess, some of the build tent stuff? Where you kind of led a group build?
Yeah, sure. So for the first time I did that was in 2015, which was around the release of the Bloody Baron, and they asked me to do a group build. So they were just kind of experimenting with that at the time. Nerdnick's MiG 3, I think, his community release was coming out right around the same time. So they asked him to do one. I did one, and there were a couple other. I think Josh led a couple, and their STEM FT STEM guys were doing some then too. So they asked me to do it, and I said yes, and it was interesting. I'm not I wouldn't consider myself an educator or teacher by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
Typical introvert engineer.
Right.
Would be more accurate, but I think it turned out pretty good. So that was fun. And then I did another one not last year, but I think the year before that.
Yeah.
It was probably 2021. They wanted to bring them back and see how they would go. So they asked Eddie to do one, Eddie Black to do one, and they asked me to do one. So that's kind of how that came about.
I think that was one of the first years that I got a chance to see you, and it was like, that's where I saw you, was you're doing that. And you were knee deep in people asking you about this or that. And I'm like, this isn't the best time. Hey, how's it going, Spons? see you later.
It's kind of a 2-hour build fest to try and get. And what's interesting with that, I kind of tried to communicate to the guys at Flight Test, the Bloody Baron's not a beginner plane, and the folks that are coming in here should really probably know that, and it shouldn't be like your first build and your first plane that you're going to learn how to fly. But when I asked everybody when we started the class, nobody had built a plane before and nobody had ever flown a plane before. And I'm like, okay, cool, this will be fun, we'll get through it, it'll be fun.
No.
But I had a lot of great people volunteer to help me too. A lot of the guys that I've met and bonded with at Flight Fest over the years, my son included, helped me out. So I had I think 8 volunteers in there, which was
perfect.
Great.
Yeah.
Right. So
because it was a
really good,
pretty full tent. I think it was like 20 or 30 people.
Yeah, it was pretty full.
Yeah.
Pretty full class. It was.
Nice.
It's a fun time. It's good getting to work with especially when most of the people that were in there were young kids with their moms and their dads, or a dad or a mom working with their kid and stuff too, and that's always great to see. It's a fun part of the community, and it's a fun event. So I don't mind doing that. It was fun.
What's your favorite? What do you look forward to most, I guess, when you go to, because obviously you've been to a bunch of the flight fests. What do you look forward to most when you go now, and what did it change from when you started going?
I mean, the first time I went, it was the first, we had only been in the hobby for less than a year. I started in the fall of, midsummer, fall of 2013. First Flight Fest was 2014, and Keegan and I talked about it, and we're like, yeah, we're going. I have, not been in the RC hobby for that long. I've never been to a flying event, and really that's the only flying, larger scale RC flying event that I've ever gone to, so I don't really have anything to compare to. So the first time we were there was just like Candyland, meeting all these people that you see on YouTube all the time.
You invite them into your home to help you build this thing, and you feel like you know them.
And then you get to meet them in person, right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is they are every bit as personable in person as they are or seem to be in the videos. So it was great. And then getting to meet like Jen and stuff, and some of the people that are behind the scenes that you don't see on the camera, and they're equally awesome. So what do I look forward to the most? I think really just hanging out with the people, right? It's just an amazing community of really good people that are kind of bonding around this theme of airplanes, but really it's just hanging out with all these people and just having a good time. But I mean, as far as the flying goes, I mean, combat is probably the most enjoyable thing for me. But they're all the special events that we have done over the years, these community, grassroots community things that we've done at a lot of these flight fests over the years. Those are probably some of my fondest memories of everything that we've done. And then, of course, I've volunteered at every flight fest except for the first one, because I didn't really know that much about what that event was going to be like. didn't know what volunteering would be like. So, and I just wanted to go with my son, and my brother and my nephew have gone to almost every one that we've gone to too. And they went to the first one with us as well.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I didn't volunteer at that one, but just kind of took it all in, right?
Right.
But I've volunteered at every one since then, and redshirted at the last, since they started the whole red shirt thing. So, and I enjoy that. I work in the store. I get to work with Jen, helping people, mostly on the technical side, like people that are asking questions about what electronics do I get with this airplane? What's a good airplane to start with?
Right.
Those kind of things. So
yeah, and they're important. They're like the critical question to having people find success in the hobby. So, good for you. That's awesome.
And it's always amazing to see how many people just show up with nothing.
Yeah.
And by the end of the event, they're RC pilots.
I know. I'm a little jealous. My journey was a lot longer.
Right.
Like, oh man, you guys are lucky. This is great. But
I still feel like a noob most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. I tend to volunteer in the STEM tents, and it's really cool to see families kind of come around these little tiny flyers that they fly just as good as anything else.
The Easies.
Yeah.
I love those.
They turn out, what a great, they just found a way to make that product line work, which is excellent because it's a great beginner, a great entry to the hobby, I think, especially for, anybody who's trying to get orientation, and you don't feel bad if you crash. You're like, oh yeah,
you're not really going to do much to it. No. It doesn't weigh anything,
or anybody or anything for that matter.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to worry about taking anybody else out with it either. Yep.
Exactly.
They work great. That's my go-to indoor flyer now.
That's a good idea. I should probably put one.
Just have fun buzzing the. I designed that little Easy intruder. Probably shortly after the Easy kits started coming out, I started dabbling around with that. And I was flying it in the gym last year and just had a blast with it.
Nice.
So many people coming up to me asking me questions like, "Where did you get that?
Oh, that's
where do you get the electronics?" And a lot of the old timers, the old guys that have been flying for 20, 30, 40 years were coming up to me and asking me about it.
Cool.
So it was pretty cool.
Hey, so are you involved in like I'll call it an indoor league or an indoor flying crew or something like that?
We have a gentleman that kind of flies locally around here by us that used to work in the school district here in the town that I live in, that gets some dates for one of the gymnasiums here every winter. And then, whatever dates he can get, he just emails out to a small group of people that have gone to that event.
Perfect.
And there's only a handful of them that I can usually make because they do it on a Friday night, and that's typically time that I'm spending with
family
my wife
time,
or family and stuff like that. But I try to make it out there a couple of times a year. So
well, I'm curious because that's one of the things it's wintertime here, and I'm always trying to figure out how do guys set that up. Like right now, we've got our flying field, and it's North Carolina, so it never really gets that cold. It gets cold enough where you're like,
winter is.
Yeah, I know, right? Not compared to the 4 feet of snow or whatever you guys have up there. But it gets cold enough where we're like, I don't feel like being out there. For me, I'm okay. I grew up in Connecticut. I've got all the winter gear. I'm fine. But most of the guys are like, nah, I don't want to do this. But I always thought about like it'd be fun to set up like a winter league, as it were. Some way to kind of get some of those guys into trying a different aspect of the hobby, or even just kind of getting some new blood in by enticing some of the young kids in with the Easies, and like have them flying around gyms and maybe put some hoops to try to fly through and that kind of stuff. But anyway, cool. Interesting that he just
it's fun just to get some stick time in the middle of winter when you normally aren't going to either. And like I said, most of the time I go and fly, I spend a lot of time talking to people too.
Yeah.
So same thing, especially in the gym. You're kind of close quarters there, so everybody's just kind of chit-chatting and stuff like that too. And a little bit more limited space, so you don't want to have like 20 guys all flying at the same time in the gym. So.
Let's see. The Sidewinder. I remember you helped out with the Sidewinder project. Is that you want to tell anybody about that?
So the Sidewinder was kind of, well, a lot of the stuff I started out with, right? So a lot of people have asked me, how do you get started with designing? And this is the one thing, like, this is how I started. And not everybody has to start the same way, but I had early success and good success by starting with a known design that I knew fly, which happened to be the plane I learned how to fly on, which was the Bloody Wonder. And, noticing some weak points in the design, like the two-piece fuselage of the original Wonder, that's where it always broke. And the fins always get squishy and floppy on it. So I wanted to take that and kind of improve on it. And that's what I started with. So I started with a design and a shape that I knew worked, and I just started tweaking from there. So a lot of the planes that I've designed really are just iterations of that.
Okay.
The Ugly Wonder, the Bloody Wonder Mark III, those were kind of the first two. The Baron came from that, but I wanted something that looked completely different. And that's how the Baron came out. And then the Baby Baron, the Baby Brit, and the Bloody Brit, kind of all that same platform.
Yeah, right.
And then, I kind of left that alone for quite a while, but a lot of scratch builders had... There's a few design things with the Bloody Baron, which, was by far probably, I would say, my most popular design at that point in time. The scallops on the tail and the wings, the curved fuselage, the exposed battery or ESC, depending on where you're putting your electronics and stuff like that.
Right.
That there was a lot of room for improvement, right? It's a great plane. I love it. I still fly them all the time. But there was room for improvement, and that's kind of where the whole idea of the Sidewinder started from. Trying to make some of those accommodations from some of the feedback that I've gotten from years of people building and flying these things, and just giving me feedback and stuff. And then, just some of that natural progression of how the designs have kind of gotten better and improved over the years. I wanted to go back and revisit that and kind of make something better for the scratch builder, and that's kind of where the premise of the Sidewinder came from.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely stands out. I kind of recognize the shape and the design in general, so I knew. It'll be a good flyer.
Form, plan form. It's basically kind of the same as it's a straight edged Baron, really. The wing shape, the empennage, the tail, and the elevator shapes is all like straight up ugly stick, because I'm a huge not ugly stick, the
simple stick,
Flite stick kind of. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No. And that's, again, it's tried and true. It works. It looks good. It's recognizable. And then of course Sam put a beautiful snakeskin kind of pattern across it.
Sam did one, but the official one that I did with the project Venom.
Yeah. Okay. Who did that?
That was Stephen Rosenberg.
Oh, was Steve? Yeah.
And we collaborated a lot on that. I had the initial idea of the kind of camo snakeskin that I wanted to go with, and then we just kind of bounced ideas back and forth off each other. He'd show me concepts, and I'd tell him to change stuff, and he'd get mad at me. But eventually, like, it turned out great. It was a fun project, and I really enjoyed collaborating with Stephen on that as well.
Definitely, it's good. It's a good looking plane. I know the skins look great. Yeah,
and there was another guy that I talked to occasionally on like Facebook Messenger that was into planes and cars. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he was sponsored by Venom for a while, and I reached out to him and I asked him if, hey, would Venom be interested in sponsoring this design? And he gave me the contact information for one of the guys at Venom that was there at the time. He's no longer there, but I started talking to the folks at Venom, and they were on board with it right away. Cool. So yeah, it was a sponsored design.
Nice.
So I put that design out there, and the build instructions and everything. That was all sponsored by Venom at the time, and unfortunately, Venom has gone out of business since then.
Yeah,
I think somebody may have bought them, and they might be coming back, but I'm not sure. But it was a fun project. It was my first kind of sponsored design. I got some batteries and a charger and a little bit of gear from Venom for doing that project, so it was pretty cool.
Absolutely. So I've got a personal question to ask you. I don't think you'll be embarrassed by it, but Where's the large version of the intruder? I've been waiting for that for 8 years. How long? You showed those pictures of you and I'm sure you and Keegan have this pictures, and so explain the intruder a little bit for those who don't know, because it's almost the way of the dodo, the original, right?
Okay, so if we rewind like an hour and a half, I lied. My first entry and foray into the world of RC model aviation was an Airhogs Intruder back in 2012, or no, not 2012, 2002, 2003, when those things came out.
I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to look to see what we...
And it was a toy that I bought at like our local like toy store or whatever,
right? And then
for $50, and it just couldn't keep that thing in the air for 10 seconds.
Well, in
but
true,
it looked really
in true
cool.
Airhogs fashion, the planes always looked great. They flew enough to go, oh, maybe, and they never really quite held up.
It's like the little plane that could, right? It really wanted to fly, it just couldn't do it.
I had one of those ones. It was a switch wing, where like you turned it and it went as a propeller up, and then you hit a button and it'd flip, and then you could fly it like a wing.
And it glides.
And it just it was cool. The concept was great. It sort of worked, but not quite enough.
Right.
You know? But I feel like it's
like that switchblade plane in the last James Bond movie or something.
Oh yeah, maybe. I don't think I've seen the last James Bond, but I'll have to look that up. It might be. But then there's the picture that I'm seeing right here, FTFC 19 AH Intruder. And there it is, the original and your blown up version. It's fantastic.
So that's another passion project, and it's probably going to be like the Wonders. So if the Wonders any indication, it'll probably be 3 more years before I have the plans out for that one. That one was, I think that was the same year we did the Gothic. Don't quote me on this. I'm not 100% sure. It's been so many years of Flight Fest now. I think start to blur together. 2016 was the year that we did the Guinness World Record. Mm-hmm. And it was before that Flight Fest that Keegan was like, ooh, because we had, that original Airhogs Intruder that I had back in 2002, I ended up giving up on that thing, and I just gave it to Keegan to play with as a toy, and he would just chuck it around. It made a great chuck glider. He threw it around in the backyard like all the time. Okay. And then like we just lost track of it over the years. And years later, we found it like stuck in the fence behind our pine trees in the back of the house, like half, like the wings are all, I still have that one. Like half the wings and stuff are tore off of it. But in 2016, before that Flight Fest, Keegan was like, we should make a giant version of the Intruder out of foam board.
Right.
I'm like, ooh, that's a really cool idea, because it was really the first time I really kind of tried RC, even though I mean that's really a toy. But I mean, it was Keegan's idea. Mm-hmm. I whipped some stuff up on CAD. Keegan actually built the 2. Well, I think we had 3 or 4 prototypes before we painted the ones up that we brought. But so Steven actually helped out with the paper decals that we put on those 2. I had great. A old image of a sticker sheet from one of the originals that I sent to him, and he traced those and blew those up for me, and we put them on there. But we painted them in the original red and yellow and purple and yellow, which were the 2 colors that thing came in, and took those to Flight Fest in 2016, and both of those planes flew for the entire duration of the Guinness World Record flight, and we both have our certificates from Guinness for that flight.
That's
with
so
those
cool.
2 models.
Nice.
I still haven't had the heart to even like dismantle them or take the electronics out of them. Mine's pretty beat up. It's flown a few times since then, but I cut somebody's. We went up, and they had different classes, right? So they had the biggest planes go up first and fly out the farthest and up the highest for that flight. So Keegan and I, and like a lot of the bigger planes, and there were some gliders, and power gliders and stuff like that.
Went up high.
So we went up first. We went way out, almost to the trees, and we were just up there slowly flying the pattern while the rest of the 4 different groups of planes were taking off or whatever. But halfway through the actual flight, I was flying my circuit and I just flew right through a glider and just cut it in half with my blade. Oh my! There's somebody has in-flight video. I'll have to look for it,
right?
Because I kind of scrubbed through it frame by frame. You can actually see my plane like flying through this guy's glider and destroying it. And you could see the wing kind of floating down. It took like forever for that wing that I cut off of it to like fly down to the ground. But there was some damage to it from that, but we flew the entire time. So that's another one of those great Flight Fest memories that I'll always have, right? And that Guinness World Record certificate to go along with it. But yeah, that plane is very rudimentary. It's just basic shapes glued together, and we kind of just figured some stuff out to get them to work, to get it to put them together enough to get them to fly. I've gone back and worked kind of like the Foam Wonder. I've gone back to that thing and kind of worked on the design many, many times over the years and just haven't been happy with stuff. And, then there's times where stuff just clicks. So that's all. The intruder is going to get done eventually. It has to. I have so many, couple of times a year people bring that up and they're like, when are you going to do the plans for this thing? And
so they did a really good job of coming up with a great eye-catching color scheme, and it's an interesting design that you just look at it and go, that looks like it'll fly fun. I want to see that in the air, yeah. Right? So kudos to Air Hogs. And then you basically did a very, I'll call it faithful replica, and you're like, ooh, that's even bigger, and it probably really flies well.
Yeah, and if you see the highlight video from Flight Fest 2016 with Keegan flying it's a fun flying plane with the differential thrust and everything. It's pretty cool. And
that's it. Yeah, that's actually cool what I'm kind of looking up right now.
I can't remember who it was. It might be somebody that's on your Discord too, but definitely somebody on the forums. And sorry, but I can't remember your name off the top of my head right now. Reached out to me several months ago. And asked if it would be cool if they designed a 3D printed intruder. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Was it on the actual forum thread? Because we're going to post the forum thread.
It's definitely on the Flight Test forums. I don't know if he was posting any of that stuff on the Discord here either. But yeah, he reached out to me, and he's, I think he's on his second or third prototype, but he's got it flying. It looks really good.
Oh, wow.
There's a 3D printed version that's going to be coming out too.
Yep.
But yeah, I definitely will go back and revisit that. It's on the short list, but there's a couple other projects that I kind of want to get done before that.
My short list always gets a little bigger.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
And that's one that I really want to get it right. Kind of like the Wonder. And as simple and basic as that Foam Wonder is, it took me years to get it to the point where I was happy with it. So
okay.
But yeah, we'll get back to it eventually. Yeah, I'm staring at it right now. It's still
I know, me too.
Sitting up in my basement down here right now.
Oh, okay.
Calling to me.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of do. Like, people are like, why do you have your stuff right there? I'm like, because I want it to stare at me. Like, I've got my J1000, the ridiculous flying wing that looks like it's got Aladdin shoes on the front of it. I don't know, it's ridiculous looking. Some sort of giant, the new passenger where everybody sits in the wing, and the whole craft is the wing. Well, I've got it sitting right here. So I see it every time I do a podcast. So maybe I'll pull out my motors and make the pods and put it on the thing and just see if it flies.
Right. It's there to remind me that I need to get it done.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for.
That's it.
But yeah, I will get back to it. It was a fun project, and a lot of people raised a lot of eyebrows, and a lot of people were asking questions and checking them out when we had them at Flight Fest in 2016. So there's definitely some interest, and I definitely want to get back to it and finish up that design and get the plans out there for other people to enjoy it. So
okay,
it'll happen sooner or later.
Can I ask you a quick question? The incident angle of the tail, is it in line flat with the bottom of the wing?
On the large scale ones that we did, there's 0 incidents. Yeah, they're in line. They're parallel.
Okay. So the wing
on the
bottom
easy intruder, I actually had to put a little. I think I have a little negative, maybe 1 or 2 degrees incidence for the easy intrusion.
Right, but just so that way the motors, when they start pulling, they go up a little.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, you want to kind of counter that. Yeah, good. No, that's perfect. I just asked because I'm asking for a friend, just kidding.
Sure.
Yeah,
no
I'll probably one of these days just start pulling out some foam and seeing what I can pull together.
Go for it.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean,
that's one where I've had so many ideas and I've written down some notes on, because it's big, right? It's clunky. It's hard to transport. If you have a smaller vehicle, you're not going to want to build one this big. So I want to be able to scale it and make it a couple of different sizes for one.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, on the big one, want to be able to figure out a removable wing. And I think, I have some ideas on how to do that now.
Yeah.
There's other things I want to kind of clean up on it, like a decent battery tray, battery hatch, all some of the more modern-y kind of things that I've been doing with some of the newer designs that I've been working on that I want to incorporate into that. So
yeah,
I think I'm at a place now where I could really start hammering that out. But like I said, I got a couple other things I want to get done.
That's fair.
This winter, so we'll see.
Well, I mean, that kind of attention to detail shows up in the Foam Wonder. So if you're listening to this and you're interested in building a plane, the Foam Wonder has a lot of that kind of stuff where you're like, you've thought about how the battery hatch is going to work, how it goes together, that it keeps.
It's almost embarrassing how simple that thing looks and how much time I actually spent and how many prototypes I've built for that thing to just try to make it super dead simple for people to build and fly.
But isn't that just good engineering?
It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but happy accidents, let's call it.
Okay. There we go. Channeling the inner Bob Ross. It's appreciated. Nice.
We're just going to put a happy little accident over here.
Well, that means I'm flying it. Watch out.
Well, we want to keep the happy trees away from the happy planes, though.
Yeah, of course. Right. All right. Let's see. Do you have any? No, I know your son is working with Full Scale Aviation. Did you ever kind of try to get you in on that bug, or?
I think, he's been rated as a CFI, and we've talked about it. Right now at this point, maybe when I'm retired and I have a little more time on my hands, I might do some flying lessons or something like that. There's no time right now for me for doing stuff like that. But and he's living in North Dakota where he went to school right now, working for a company out there. So it's not like he's here all the time. So
yeah.
It's something that I've thought about here and there over the years. Just haven't really gotten that bug where I have to go out and do it. I've gone up in small planes quite a few times already. I've flown small planes with other pilots sitting next to me. So that scratched the itch a little bit, but hasn't I guess I would say the bug hasn't hit me hard enough that I'm going to dedicate the time and the money that it would take to go out and pursue that.
You definitely need both. Definitely. Good. Is there anything, we're about to hit on our lightning round or our jet round,
which I think we ought to save for now.
What?
Don't you want to hit it after, right at the end, or you want to hit it right now? Well,
I don't know. Well, what I wanted to ask you, Dan, before we get to whatever the next segment is going to be, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, or anything you want to touch upon that we might have missed? Something you were hoping that you could talk about, because we'd love to hear it. So I know when we started talking, nobody's going to care. I'm like, you do something that a lot of people don't get opportunities to do. And I've had a lot of questions personally, people going, how do you do that? How do you do that design? How do you go from an idea to a plan set and that kind of stuff?
That could be a whole nother podcast. Right?
Right. Well, yeah.
Well, sounds like we've got a part 2 coming up.
We may be, but
anytime.
Right. But I think, so, and that's why I thought, I wanted to talk to you just because I know we're kind of getting ready to collaborate a little bit, but I wanted to see, are there other things that you want to talk about? Projects you might have in the wings that you want people to know about, or I don't know.
Projects that I have, nothing that I want to put out there for right now. Actually, I do have some projects in the wings that are coming up, but nothing that I'm ready to really talk about.
And that's perfectly fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've talked about most of the big stuff.
Okay.
So that's sort of our cheater question of, was there anything that you thought we were going to ask you that we didn't, and therefore pretend we did and answer the question?
Well, yeah, just, I have ideas, but so I've been wrong. I know. You heard it here first.
No, nothing that I can think of. I mean, I had some notes written down before we started, and we've talked about everything that I had written down, so I don't think there's anything. Oh, there is one thing, actually. Terry Dunn says hi.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
That's really cool. Yeah, he knows he's flying with you now, right? He's at your field?
He's relatively local. He's not at my field.
Okay.
He lives probably a little over an hour and a half away. A little north of Green Bay, I think, where Terry moved from upstate New York over to Wisconsin just this past year. So
from one bit of
he's
cold
still
to
settling in, but
yeah.
But we have gotten the opportunity. He came down to our local field here. Our AMA club has a pretty decent size warbird event, warbirds over the Midwest, and I told him about that and when that was going to be, and he said he was going to swing by and go. And I usually try to make it a point to get out there and just kind of walk around and look. I'm not a member. I haven't joined the AMA club or anything like that. We have a small field where a bunch of us just fly small electric stuff here in town. So and that club is mostly older guys with the bigger gasser balsa planes and stuff like that. They have some electric and stuff out there too. But yeah, I got an opportunity to meet up with Terry a couple of times already. So
that's awesome.
I mentioned that we were talking just tonight about the indoor flying that we're going to be doing down here in Fond du Lac, and he mentioned he might want to come down. So I told him I was going to be on the show, and he said to tell you guys, he said hi.
Well, awesome. Yeah, I definitely, we think about him all the time. I'm glad he just hi back, next time you see him.
Yeah. Hey back. And I'm glad he seemed to have enjoyed himself enough to make it worthwhile saying hey. So
yeah.
Awesome.
And I know at some point or another, we're going to have we'll see about getting a full crossover episode or something like that. But
that's right. Cause he does one.
Yeah, he does. Joe doesn't listen to podcasts. We don't talk about that much, but
not a whole lot.
Yeah, you'll probably want to cut this out too, but I don't really listen to podcasts. I've listened to your guys' a couple of times. I've listened to the RC Roundtable. I don't even keep up with the Flight Test podcast, to be honest.
Neither do I.
Just so many other things going on. And I'm the kind of person, lots of people can have YouTube on or a podcast on or something else on as background noise. I can't focus and work if I have anything like that. I don't even have music on when I'm working.
So I certainly have a lot of times I'll have lo-fi, chill beats or smooth Christmas jazz now because of the season, or just smooth jazz in general playing while I'm working. When I'm on the road, I enjoy listening to podcasts. I was doing a good job of keeping up with Ron and Tom's RC Plane Lab, and then fell behind, and now I'm so far behind.
You're so far.
Sure.
Far behind. And so now, but also end up listening to other things Old Gods of Appalachia is one that I recently busted through that was really good, or some other podcasts on other topics that I won't discuss here that just their podcast. Those situations are, I'm listening to that because that's a topic I want to find out about. It's just a long format, so
sure.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if I was commuting or driving at all, I could probably listen to them in the car too.
Hour and a quarter one way, baby.
I've been working from home since the lockdown, and there's no sign of me going back. So, not much car time anymore.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just started a at-home job. Working from home, so remote. So we'll see.
It has its pros and cons.
It does. There's certain things that are good, and I miss my podcasts that I listen to routinely, but so I feel honored that we were one of the people that you chose to listen to at least a couple times. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
So, all right, why don't we take a moment? We'll go through, as promised, the goblin, or are we going to do the lightning round?
Let's go ahead and hit it with the lightning round, just because we're in the momentum, and then we'll do the history segment and work on wrapping it up.
You might have to edit this whole part.
No, this is the part that we don't edit because it's fantastic. No.
Okay.
All right.
Nobody prepared me for that.
Well,
No,
are you
we
familiar with our lightning rounds? Have you listened to one of those episodes?
No, I am not.
All right. So
go ahead, Joe.
The lightning round is going to be a series of rapid fire, this or that kind of questions. The intent is that you just spit out the answer that first comes to your mind. It doesn't necessarily have to be correct, but it is intended to be like, what is your preference? This or that, true, false, although I think all of these are this or that, or this or that. Okay?
Sounds good. What do I win?
A good time. A good time and prestige.
There you go.
Not our prestige. You'll have to get that somewhere else.
Or if the answers are wrong, a lot of hate mail. You just send your hate mail to what's your email? Just kidding.
Joe.
Whoa now.
Nice, Dan. Okay, so go ahead, Joe. Why don't you start it off?
Okay. Sit or stand?
Sit.
Autodesk or Bentley?
Autodesk.
Pinch or thumb?
Both.
All right.
Radiomaster, Futaba, Spectrum, other?
Radiomaster.
Nice. Bloody Baron, Sidewinder, or Foamy Wonder?
Oh my gosh. Depends on the day of the week. I'm going to go with the classic, Bloody Baron.
Should we have included the intruder in there?
No.
Fair enough. Mini, park, or giant scale?
Park.
Okay.
1 cell, 2 cell, 3 cell, 4 cell, 6 cell, 8 cell, 12 cell, 20 cell.
Wow.
All of the cells.
Nice.
Mostly 4.
Okay. FPV or traditional flying?
Traditional.
And then planes or quads?
All planes.
Okay.
Nice. Chunky or creamy?
Creamy.
And if you had marshmallow fluff, does it change your answer?
No.
All right. There you go. That's it. It was a simple thing.
See, that won't bad.
That was painless.
We get more hate mail over the chunky creamy thing. It's terrible.
We really don't, but I think we've had a couple comments post
Either eat peanuts or eat peanut butter.
So
or both, if that's your preference, but not mixed together.
The only weird thing we've had about the chunky versus creamy really has been when was it Richard? It was somebody we had on that was more from the UK area.
It's like Nutella. What are you doing?
Yeah, but like there was this long hesitation of what are you talking about? Like
I don't even know what you're talking about here.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
I thought this was a PG rated show.
Exactly. It was like peanut butter. We're talking about peanut butter.
It's just a sandwich thing to relax.
Yeah. So from that point forward, we had to be mindful when we ask that one, where's somebody from, that they'll get that, or if they won't, then we got to preface it with peanut butter. But initially, it's nice to throw that chunky versus creamy and not announce that it's peanut butter, right? Because it throws you off. You're like, what?
Like what? Yeah, I had to think about it for a second.
Going at? That's it.
None of my planes are creamy.
Yeah.
So, last episode we talked about the was it XB36, the B36? What was last episode?
You did the history.
I don't remember.
It was the B36 Peacemaker.
Okay, there we go. And one of the experimental experimental aspects. They did outfit the plane to do it. They outfitted another test plane or two in the testing of it, but they never really made use of it, but they were in the test of, was to have the Parasite fighter, the XF-85, and I told Matt that was going to be his assignment for the history segment this week. So, Matthew, go ahead and take it away.
All right. So let's see. The McDonnell XF-85 is nicknamed the Goblin. It was in response to the United States, USAAF, because that's a predecessor to the USAF, requirement for a fighter to be carried within the Northrop XB-35 and the B-36, which were then under development, and it was to address the limitations of existing interceptor aircraft compared to the great range of these new bombers, because these could pretty much go halfway across the globe and back again. So to be able to do that and have support, they wanted to find a way to bring fighters with them, I guess. So the prototypes were built, and they underwent testing and evaluation in 1948. The flight tests showed promise in the design, but the aircraft's performance was inferior to the jet aircraft that were being developed at the time, and it would have to face in the combat. So, the Russian jets that were being produced were clearly going to outmatch whatever they could bring. So, and then they realized as they were kind of figuring out the docking mechanism, there were definitely some difficulties in that, which I'll get into in a little bit. So in pretty short order, the XF-85 was canceled, and then the United States Air Force continued to examine the concept of maybe other ways they could have Parasite aircraft under 3 different related projects that followed following that cancellation, using the MX-106, which was a tiptoe. Then there was the Ficon and the Tom-Tom. Yep. We can there's a way to yeah, it's just different ways to kind of tow craft with, and that's not the first time that's been done, right? That was done pre-World War II with some bi-wing planes sitting on top of blimps and things like that. So this isn't the first time it's happened. We kind of talked about that a little bit last time. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about it in a second. But basically the tiptoe was fighters would link their tip, the wing tips together with the bomber, and let the bomber do the bulk of the work, and then they would pull out and release, and then kind of do their mission and kind of come back up and reconnect. The Ficon was basically a fighter conveyor, so it was like an undercarriage base, and then the Tom-Tom was, I can't remember what the Tom-Tom was. But I think those were similar to the tip link. It was a kind of a different way to do that. But all of these really kind of they all had a lot of similar problems, and I'll talk about that in a second, but specifically how each one had issues. If I can remember what the Tom-Tom was, I'm trying to remember. But there's turbulence basically as it closed into the bomber. The slipstream along the aircraft was far more turbulent, especially their original docking location was just behind the trailing edge of the aircraft. So it was definitely not a smooth laminar flow there. Mm-hmm. And so as the pilots, they had basically like this bomb bay would open up, and a trapeze system would kind of come down and hang fairly well below basically like a fuselage height below the aircraft. So it had this little trapeze bar, and there's a hook that was embedded in the nose of the Goblin. Now the Goblin is basically imagine like a little egg-shaped, and we'll talk about how big, but basically it's like a 14-foot by 8-foot high craft egg, and then with 10-foot wings on each side. So it's about a 21-foot wingspan. So it's got this funky little tail. I guess probably to create a bunch of drag behind the center of lift, so that always at least went in a forward direction, and it had basically like had a jet basically intake and propulsion. And again, it's a weird looking plane. But it had
looks like it would fly about as good as the Punjet.
It's very akin to that. And it had a hook that kind of rolled up and sat right in front of like where the cockpit is, and the hook would be right above almost like where the pilot's head is, right? I mean, it's a little bit in front. And so it'd sit just above the cockpit and right above the pilot's head. And it almost looked like a little praying mantis hook. And it just they would fly this craft up to the trapeze and try to get that hook into the trapeze. And once it was done, then, they just kind of let it hang there, which, it was pretty turbulent. So it wasn't exactly a smooth ride. But what they found out that the only people who could really link in were really talented pilots. So the best pilots could link in, and it was sketchy at best,
Yeah, I don't recall when I was reading up on the B-36 that anybody was really successful.
They had successes. They had some successes, but what happened was during one of the tests, there was just as they were about to lock in, there was a turbulent issue, and the plane smashed into the trapeze, and it busted the cockpit off and ripped the oxygen mask from the pilot, require him to do a rapid descent and a belly land into the Dray Lake bed below. And it wasn't the first time he had to do that landing. And he was one of the best test pilots they had. So the craft was unrepairable, and they kind of went back to work and make another attempt at it. And they tried a couple different versions of it, but by the time they really kind of got further into that design, they just realized that it wouldn't meet the mission parameters well enough. Mm-hmm. And they ended up basically, so it wouldn't be a viable skirmisher. So it ended up scrapping the project. But it's weird. And the wings would basically fold up. Again, you talked about the Punjet. If you look at the FT Punjet that sat in, what was that? Was it in the Bronco or?
I think it was the guinea pig.
That's right. It was the guinea pig. And so if you got the one plan, you kind of got a free plan for the Punjet with it. And so the wings would fold up alongside the plane itself, and then it would be pulled into the bomber. And so it could fit into the fuselage there. It was, you almost have to like see it to believe it. But again, it's like, imagine an egg shape sitting in the middle of like a flying wing.
Well, as always, there'll be links in the notes.
There will be. We'll have a lot of links in the notes. But that's the thing is, so let me go through the general characteristics of this and some of its armaments, and then I'll go into some of the alternate concepts that were entertained as well. And it's one of the ones that I've definitely had on my, boy, I would love to do this as an RC group. You know what I mean? And we'll get into that in about a second. But let me talk about this. So it was a single pilot, right? It was 14 foot 10 in length. It was 21 foot wingspan with the wings spread, not wings kind of folded up. The height was 8 feet. The wing area was only 90 square feet. It's pretty small. It had an empty weight of 3,740 pounds and a gross weight of 4,500 pounds, which pretty much was that 1,200 pound useful load. That's its gross weight.
Which really isn't that much.
Well, the max takeoff weight was 5,600. So yeah, it was maybe 1,100 pound takeoff weight. It really didn't have a lot of payload, but it didn't need it. Its goal was to basically have a machine gun with some ammo and go hunt down, fighters that were nearby. Mm-hmm. So its power plant was one Westinghouse XJ34-WE-22 turbojet engine. It produced 3,000 pounds of force and thrust, or 13 kilonewtons. The max speed was 650 miles an hour, which they estimated. I don't think they ever were able to really bring it up to full. It could fly around for about an hour and 20 minutes. Its service ceiling was 48,000 feet and had a 12,500 foot rate of climb per minute.
It's sad. I'm seeing these numbers. I'm like, man, that is moving. But I'm also, we've been talking a lot about prop driven planes. So
yeah. Once you start into the jet age, it's a different ball of wax. The wing loading is 51 pounds per square foot, and so its thrust to weight was 0.66. It had 4 50 caliber M3 Browning machine guns in it for armaments. And so it's an interesting thing. I think what they also were developing alongside of it was how to successfully refuel in the air. And once that started to develop far more reliably, and that's kind of what was happening at the same time this was being developed. So basically, once they had the accident and they started kind of rebuilding this, that really found success. And so they realized they could just send up a couple bombers, 2 of them with fuel, and just send the fighter jets alongside. They'd get refueled as they went, and they could do the long range missions.
Mm-hmm.
So they realized that they didn't quite need what they were doing here. Although there is a follow-up to that. Let me see if I could find the... They talked about another way to have Parasite microfighters was to get a 747 and store them inside the fuselage and like stack them. And then they were talking about different power things using jets, but they were also talking about using Ram scramjets and things like that. So they were talking about advanced fighters, but these guys had, I think their wingspans were max 18 feet. They were these kind of Delta designs that were done by, I'm trying to think of who was the manufacturer. It was definitely by Boeing. And they were the ones who were tasked to look at this concept. And then they came up with about five variants. One was just a pure Delta. One kind of looked like a mini fighter jet. Their overall length was about 30 feet. Their wingspans were 17 and a half feet. So that was the limitation by the carrying craft. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can find. I mean, they were really thin planes. They were about 6 to 7 feet tall. They didn't even have landing skids. I mean, because they were supposed to be on a trapeze, pulled into the plane, and they just launched from the plane. So they had like a landing skid, if anything. They even looked at like a floatable, like an inflatable landing device for like if you had to. And oftentimes they basically had 2 Sidewinder AIM missiles and a couple cannons. And so they were the Model 985, and then there were the different variants, which is the -1, -10, -20, and that. So it's the Delta is -1, the Vitak is -10, the Arrow is -20. There's a Canard version, -30, and there's a variable sweep wing. So VSW is -40. So they kind of have a long swept wing, but then as they exited the plane, they deploy it out, so it had, I guess, better lift profile. So kind of set it up almost like a F-14 Tomcat, but like a mini one. Yeah, and that one had a max wingspan of 27 feet when it was deployed. Otherwise, these are all just Delta jets. I don't know, just really, really cool concept. And go look it up because it's pretty cool. That's another one where they were just trying to figure out some of the trapeze. And again, they were probably piggybacking on, if this Goblin concept succeeds, we're going to want to take this a little bit more seriously. Mm-hmm. And we're going to want to basically, because if you can think, rather than go from aircraft carriers, you can go from these the Boeing jets. The problem is that's also a popular airliner at the time. And I think, I'm trying to remember, there's one country that was flying, if it was Korean or if it was Japanese, they were basically flying from Canada, and they were crossing across Alaska, and of course came extremely close to the Russian airspace, and Russia blew it out of the sky and killed all 200 and some odd passengers on board because it was considered a possible threat, as it might actually, in fact, carry a whole fleet of microfighters. So the drawback to making what is commonly known as a passenger plane into in a mobile airborne aircraft carrier, you kind of have that like, oh no, now they're all possibly threats, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the other foray into microfighters and to see if that was even possible. Now I've flown, I've made a mini version. So like almost like an easy pack version. And as a glider, it flies great. I don't think haven't been able to make it work as an easy model officially. Trying to figure out how to place the motors where they don't interfere with the actual tail of the craft. And then I made one, it's kind of scaled it up to 30 millimeter, which didn't have enough thrust. And then I have a 50 millimeter that I don't think I've put electronics in, but I've got it sized up. And it's set up, so I wanted to have it be like one sheet. So everybody takes the one sheet, effectively one sheet wonder, and, paint it, everybody gets a different color. And we put in a big giant Boeing 747 version, model of foam board, and then fly it at Flight Fest and try to do that, which I thought would be awesome. But as I had no appreciable success with any of the models directly, I was like, well, before I get too far down this rabbit hole, let's get one of these things to fly. If it flies well, then I'm all on board. I would love to have a bunch of people, do this. This would be a lot of fun to deploy them in combat,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's another example of Parasite microfighters. It is something that the Air Force and the militaries have considered for a long while.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing that research.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, when I was reading about, when I did a little bit of side reading as I was reading on that bomber, I said, "Oh, Matt would enjoy this."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What little did you know? I've got a whole top secret Parasite microfighter build thread set aside for this bad boy. Just saying.
And you were talking about the rudder earlier, the tail fins. I don't know so much about the tail fins other than just to have a small form factor. They needed multiple surfaces, to have, yeah. But I think the vertical winglets on the wing tips were put in to help with stability in the turbulence beneath the main aircraft body as they were coming in. If I remember what little bit of reading I did 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. No, I think, there was definitely mention of that. I forgot to add it to the thing.
That's fine.
So I'm glad you brought it up.
I was looking at the picture. I was like, oh, yeah, I think I know what those are about.
Right. And I don't know. Dan, do you know if anybody's made a successful flying model of this guy?
Of the Goblin?
Yeah. I mean, I know it's been dreamed up and a lot of people have tried and failed. Right?
Not that I've seen or heard, no.
Okay.
Yeah. That's Punjet's the closest. And I've never flown one personally, but I've seen a lot of people try, and I've read a lot of forum posts about how unsuccessful they've been with it. Kind of like those the baby Baron and baby Brit, right? You probably got to get that thing dialed in just right on your radio to get it to fly halfway decent.
Yeah, I mean, with the ratios of, like, you've got to get it going fast, which, I mean, that's why you deploy from a 747. It's already going pretty darn fast, right? So you got a leg up there. But
it's a small, stubby, squatty little
it looks like a cartoon fatty style. Like,
reminds me a little of the Pogo too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Pogo definitely. I forgot about that one. Yeah, I'm gonna post here for Dan. That's the link to the forum thread that has all the microfighter stuff and my progress on that. Just pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool. Anything to add to that, Dan? Anything you know about the Goblin that we should be aware of?
Nothing that I know of, but I mean, those are the kind of things that are kind of right up my. I like the oddball stuff, like that's not conventional airplane type stuff. Hence, most of my designs aren't modeled after, real general aviation or military aircraft or anything like the Intruder and the Baron and the Wonder and stuff like that. I mean, I just go for like the odd looking cool stuff, kind of.
Yeah.
So
I do.
have fun
I mean,
with that.
Look at the
even stuff like Terry's yin yang that I like helped him with the plans on for that thing. That
thing baffles me.
I've taken that to my field here locally too, and the guys just look at me like, "What the heck is that thing? Can't fly!" And then you just wingtip launch it, and it just goes straight out of your hand and flies like a perfectly normal airplane. And you're like, "That's just bizarre."
Yeah. It does not look like it should, but boy, there it is.
Yeah, like he kind of explained the physics of it, but it's still no. No.
Yeah. Asymmetrical aircraft. Yeah. It's a mystery. Yeah, and I'm not an aeronautical guy by any stretch of the imagination. I mostly I use the that looks about right TLAR approach with everything that I do, and then just build prototypes and tweak from there.
Sound like Matthew.
Yep. Look, why do you? I've been listening to, seeing Dan's stuff as we go, and I know he's helped out with this and that, and you always have good comments on the forums to help people kind of either encourage them towards success or give them pointers that might get them there. Always a big proponent.
That's what it's all about.
It is. Yeah.
Have fun with it. Make some memories.
That's right. All right. Well. Nice. Thank you for that. Anything else in the history segment?
No. Other than what plane should we tackle next week? Dan, do you have any ideas?
Oh gosh, nothing off the top of my head. No.
That's all right.
Man, we're good about throwing him in a hot seat tonight.
Yeah. I figured, Dan, you can handle it.
Give me a this or that, and I'll pick one.
That's a good. Let's see.
Make the chunky peanut butter plane.
F-117, and Joe, what would be the counterpoint?
I'd have to look up the F-117.
It's the stealth fighter, man.
Yeah, the Nighthawk.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. F-117 or what if we say the B-2B?
I didn't catch the last one.
Is it the B-2B? Yeah. All right, so let's go.
Oh, the Spirit?
Yeah, the Spirit. So the F-1...
No. F1. I just covered the Spirit.
Huh?
I just covered the Spirit 2 weeks ago, didn't I?
Did you?
Yeah, because we were talking about Perdana's build, right? We're doing. Did I get that wrong? No, you did the Peacemaker on that episode. My mistake.
Yeah, I did the Peacemaker. If you did the Spirit, it would have been on the episode that I wasn't there. Your little mini-sode.
Oh yeah.
And I don't.
So you're talking about what plane to do for your next history?
Yeah.
Have you done the F-111 Aardvark?
I don't think so.
F-111 Aardvark?
I believe that is correct.
Let's see, we got a... What?
It's a swept wing fighter bomber.
That is it looks like a swept wing, but it also looks like it handles like the F-14 Tomcat where those wings move.
It's got a, yep. It's got a variable sweep.
All right, well, looks like we got our marching orders for next time, Matthew. Do you want it or am I getting it?
It's up to you, man. I'm good with either. It depends on which one you want to get. I've got a good anecdote to go with that I heard from another podcast the Fighter Pilot podcast, and they was talking about his mission in, I think it was in Baghdad or outside of Baghdad.
Well, I'll let you have that one.
Yeah, that was F1 117. Yeah, I mean, but I could easily add that anecdote after you do the history.
Oh, okay. So you're giving it to me?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
We'll find out.
117 would be good too. That's a great plane too.
No, you done said the 111, so we're doing that one. But Matthew and I will just.
Well, you put me on the spot. So.
Well, we'll do both of them in the next couple episodes. But
there you go. And chances are we'll do all three in the next couple months.
Yeah.
So, Matthew and I will discuss and find out who's doing what.
Yeah, we'll rock paper scissors for it.
That's right. Team deathmatch. I mean.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for joining us today. We really appreciated the conversation and the laughs.
Oh man, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Anything exciting you've got going on in the next couple weeks?
Oh, just the holiday season. I'm going to be celebrating Christmas with my family. All the kids will be back home, so it'll be a good time of the year to just relax and chill out and be with family.
Yeah.
So.
There you go. Matthew, how about you?
Probably just trying to get to those maidens on the couple planes I've been talking about, and getting some build experience on that B2.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Joe?
Hoping to get a little work on the Flurkin done. I'm not remotely going to commit to trying to get it done anytime soon, but get a little work done on it and swap out the props on the Phantom 3 and give it a little test flight here in the yard so I can find out if it does indeed work.
Good.
So, all right.
That sounds about fair enough for the holiday that's coming up. So
that's right. And it's still messing me because I drive a little over an hour to work and a little over an hour back. It's 8 hours and then lunch hour. So it's like 9 hours. And so like it's a long day and it's already getting dark early. So the weekends.
I think we're past equinox, aren't we? Where it's turning back around again?
We might be. All I know is that I stayed a little late today at the office. And when I walked out, like it was like somebody hit me with a bag of bricks. Just the shock of having been inside where it was bright, and I walk out and it's pitch dark.
Yeah, rude awakening.
I think we're 1 week out from winter solstice.
Okay.
I think it's like the 21st or 22nd.
Not the right. Thank you, solstice, not the equinox.
Okay.
All right.
Well, if you got nothing else,
no. You want to close it out, Joe?
I'm going to do my best. We're going to see how it goes.
I thought you wrote it down from last time.
Nope, I hadn't done that yet.
All right, good luck.
All right, guys. Well, as always, thank you for tuning in and listening. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode as much as Matthew and I, and hopefully Dan, have enjoyed having these conversations. Hopefully you learned as much as we did as well. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, anything else, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach us at aviationrcnoob@gmail.com. You can reach Matthew at aviationrcnoob.com, or you can reach me, Joe, at aviationrcnoob.com. You can also swing by the Facebook page group. We got the group now. Which is easier to interact with and see things that are going on. If you hadn't switched over to the Facebook group, go for it. Also, feel free to swing by, and if you're not a member of the Discord server, join the Discord. Say hey. There's a lot of good conversations that go on in there, especially if you're wanting to partake or see what's going on with the Flite Fest 2023 group build that we'll be doing. Again, that channel's down there. Feel free to swing through, sign up, say hey, and join in the community. And
join us at the next build night. We'd love to see you.
Build night coming up on New Year's Eve. That'll be daytime, our time, Saturday.
11 to 3.
11 to 3 Eastern Standard. And I don't know yet, but I may go all the way to midnight. We'll see. And Matthew, if there's nothing else?
No, that's it for me. Dan, what about you?
I'm just looking forward to collaborating with you guys on a potential Aviation RC Noob Foam Wonder for the flying circus at Flite Fest 2023. Should be a really fun.
Sounds amazing.
Yep, it's going to be a good time. Well, Dan, thanks again, and say good night.
Good night.
Good night, Dan.
See you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
You'll be editing a lot of this, right?
So I was thinking about calling this episode Plan Man Dan, but
You can call it whatever you want.
No boy, watch out.
Well, wait a minute. Maybe I take that back.
Don't worry about it. We'll be fine.
So one of the things that's been talked about, and kind of was something that I been wanting to do, just haven't had that much time, and it's not as high of a priority, is to get all of the all the plans that are on my index over to the resources section. So there's kind of like a one-stop shop for all the plans, but
Nice.
that's a lot of work.
It is.
And I just haven't gotten to it yet.
It's I mean, ultimately it's worth it when it's all said and done. But yeah, I get you. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not. That's not my full-time job. So I do it when time allots and when I don't have other things that I think are a higher priority. So
this is where the exit music goes woo, and it swells, and then it finishes.
I can feel it.
Yeah.